Good morning, world, and welcome to the Patriot Party Show. I'm Matt, your host, and I'm so happy to be here starting off the weekend with all y'all guys and gals at the Patriot Party, where truth meets every corner of the news. We bring you unbiased news that spans general news, political news, world news, financial news, tech news, and more. We cover celebrity news, gossip, sports, new movies, and TV shows, making sure you stay up to date with all the latest entertainment. Join our America First movement, where we put truth and the Constitution above all and provide unique insights and immersive content all in one place. You can find all information about our movement on our brand new website. Please check us out at thepatriotparty.us, all lowercase. That is thepatriotparty.us, all lowercase. And support our cause. There's a link in the podcast description. Also, follow us on all our social media platforms to stay engaged. You can also find these links by clicking on the description of this podcast. And don't hesitate to share your thoughts or topic suggestions. Thank you for supporting the Patriot Party as we unravel mainstream media BS and offer you a fresh perspective that's not affiliated with any political parties. So we have no agendas. Thank you so much for your support, because without y'all, we wouldn't be here. And now to the show. Before we get started, I hope everyone's had a wonderful week, and I hope you have an equally or better wonderful weekend. Let's get started. The Property Tax Authority in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and that Federal Reserve said that Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook hasn't broken rules for tax breaks on a home there that Cook declared her primary residence. Then, after they said that, because we remember Trump tried to remove her, so then the Trump administration has asked the Supreme Court on Thursday to let it remove Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook from the central bank's board while a lawsuit challenging the president's effort to fire her proceeds. The emergency request came after a federal appeals court in Washington, D.C. rejected the administration's bid to remove Cook ahead of the Fed's meeting earlier this week. The 2-1 decision was handed down the night before the meeting began. Federal law protects Fed governors from arbitrary removal, but the administration's lawyer, Solicitor General John Sauer, told the court in his filing that allegations that Cook committed mortgage fraud made by a Trump political appointee provide the president sufficient cause to fire the Senate-confirmed Biden appointee. Sauer asked the court to allow the administration to immediately remove Cook from the board, even before the justices issue a decision on the emergency request. No president has ever removed a Fed governor in the institution's 111-year history. This case is not just about Lisa Cook. It's a test of how far presidential power can reach into the independent financial institutions. So, we're just going to have to wait and see on this one. The reserve, the Federal Reserve, is supposed to be independent of the governor, of the government. Excuse me, not the governor, the government. We're just going to have to wait and see. I mean, it's pushing it a little bit here, I believe, and I would say if I were gonna journey a theory, that I don't think he's going to be allowed to do it. But, don't hold me to that, because we're going to have to wait and see. You never know which way the courts are going to lean. And this is why we talk so much about clear, concise laws that the average American person can understand. That is what this country was founded on. It was founded on being able to do some self-governance. It was founded on the documents that were written and not in a bunch of legal jargon, so average American citizens can understand it. I we'll have to wait and see on this one. The White House is using the assassination of conservative activist Charlie Kirk as a basis to go after left-wing groups and threaten crackdowns on certain types of rhetoric, drawing skepticism from even some on the right. Vice President Vance on Monday urged the public to report anyone they saw celebrating Kirk's murder, comments that appeared at odds with the previous criticism of Europe for suppressing free speech. We don't like it. It's bad taste. I've seen it all over social media. I commented on last Saturday's show, the Rest in Peace Charlie Kirk, where people on social media were dancing around, singing, having a good time. But the Constitution is not a tool of convenience. It is for everyone, and it is not to be used when it furthers your agenda. It is to be used all the time. So, even though we don't like this, even though it's poor taste, sick, evil to chant and cheer such a bright young individual with a young family who had such a vision for all the youth in colleges voting, I didn't always agree with him, but somebody shouldn't be killed for their ideologies. So we cannot, if we are to walk that line, that constitutional line, we cannot penalize people for being evil and sick, as long as they're not threatening or doing something that could pose harm to an individual, because then it's not just about individual rights, it's about someone else's rights, and you do not have the right to do that to someone else. So Vance said, when you see someone celebrating Charlie's murder, call them out. And hell, call their employer, Vance said while hosting Kirk's radio show on Monday. Vance's remarks did not come in a vacuum. The State Department said this week it was revoking visas for those found celebrating Kirk's death. And Attorney General Pam Bondi raised eyebrows when she said the administration would go after you if you are targeting anyone with hate speech. The Attorney General separately threatened to prosecute Office Depot over an employee's refusal to print posters for a vigil honoring Kirk. Bondi on Tuesday cleaned up her original comments about hate speech made on the Katie Miller podcast in the face of criticism from prominent conservatives like Megyn Kelly, Mike Cernovich, and Eric Erickson, who noted hate speech was generally protected under the First Amendment. We don't like it especially when it's against someone who we think is a good person that we may have respected. We don't like it. We think it's evil, but it is allowed as long as it doesn't infringe on someone else, as long as they're not threatening or posing a threat to someone else. Disney said it pulled Jimmy Kimmel's show off ABC in the wake of remarks the late night host made about the killing of conservative activist Charlie Kirk. Jimmy Kimmel Live will be preempted indefinitely. An ABC spokeswoman said Wednesday the suspension began with Wednesday's planned broadcast. While no return date had been set, Disney was monitoring the situation and saw a path to the show potentially returning in the next several days, according to a person familiar with the situation. Federal Communications Commission Chairman Bren Carr said in an interview on CNBC Thursday that Kimmel appeared to directly mislead the American public about Kirk's murder. During an interview with conservative political podcaster Benny Johnson on Wednesday, Carr suggested the FCC could take action against the broadcast licenses of ABC-owned stations. Owners of some ABC TV stations, including large broadcasters, Nexstar Media Group, and Sinclair, told the network they were dropping the show. A spokesman for Kimmel said the host had no comment. In his Monday night broadcast, Kimmel, who has often criticized President Trump on his show, said, and this is in quotation marks, y'all, the MAGA gang is desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them, and doing everything they can to score political points from it. Everybody on the left. First, we're gonna break this down in a constitutional sense. Then I'm going to give a subjective opinion on MAGA that the Patriot Party does believe wholeheartedly. Everybody on the left is crying free speech. But y'all, this is a common misconception. Private companies are not bound by the Constitution. Only the government or the government and state agencies. The governments themselves, state, federal, they are bound by the Constitution. Private companies aren't. They don't have to give you free speech. They don't have to give you. I mean, there's they do have to give you in essence equal protection, but they don't have to follow and abide by the Constitution to the T like the government is supposed to. Now, let's get to to this MAGA comment. This goes directly to the heart of one of the stances and beliefs that we have here at the Patriot Party. MAGA has become so negative, like people attack it on different sides of the aisle, and they list it as a cult and all that, and that is because it is connected to a political party. If it was not collected to a political party and it was meant, just like the founding fathers meant the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, and all that for we the people, if it was meant for we the people, not we the party, then it would be a truly righteous movement that if you had both sides and then independents and all these other constitutional conservatives and all these people that believed that we were in essence trying to make America great again for the whole or for as many people as possible instead of just a percentage, a party, then it would be a truly righteous movement, y'all. And people would stop attacking it because you would not be hooked to every negative thing Trump does. It doesn't mean you can't support him. It just means the movement itself should not be connected to him. He didn't make it. It should not be connected to him. Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr., hand-picked slate of vaccine advisors, voted to no longer recommend a combined shot for measles, mumps, rubella, and varicella for children under age 4. The move came as some states, insurers, public health leaders, and a U.S. senator called into question whether Americans should rely on the committee's decision. Now, this I'm putting in quotation marks. Why? So eradicated diseases can make a comeback? And that quote is coming from a medical expert on the subject. President Trump announced Friday that he and Chinese leader Xi Jinping approved an agreement for a group of investors to take control of TikTok's U.S. operations, capping off months of tense negotiations that put the video sharing app at the center of trade talks between the two sides. I just completed a very productive call with President Xi of China, and this is in quotation marks. We made progress on many very important issues, including trade, fentanyl, the need to bring the war between Russia and Ukraine to an end, and the approval of the TikTok deal, he said on his Truth Social platform. Trump said he and Xi agreed to meet at the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit in South Korea this fall, and that he would travel to China early next year and that Xi would reciprocate. The call was a very good one. We will be speaking again by phone. Appreciate the TikTok approval and both look forward to meeting at APEC, Trump said. That is a loaded statement. And I gotta say, I'll believe it when I see it. I just don't trust. Well, first off, Trump's made statements before, just like his meeting with Putin went great, and then Ukraine got pummeled with some of the worst strikes. I mean, the day of, the day after, Poland had drones flying in their airspace. I'll believe it when I see it. One, I don't necessarily believe all the pump that when Trump, I think he over exaggerates how things go to charge the base and the American people. It's politics. Okay. I mean, I'd like a little more truth. I'd like it to be a little more direct, not so much flim flam and fluff. But whatever. My thing is, not only do I not completely trust Trump to give us an accurate breakdown of what actually happened and what was actually said, I don't trust Xi Jinping. I don't trust he doesn't have an ulterior motive. I wouldn't put it past him. Now, don't quote me on this because this is just off the fly, coming off my head, but I wouldn't put it past him to say all these things or say some of these things and allude to others and then put an ultimatum on them or attach a string. Oh, well, yeah, but we're going to take back over Taiwan. If you want us to do this, we're going to do that, and you're going to go along with it. And we depend on our microchips from there. Our military depends on our microchips. We can't have China over our microchips until we are self-sufficient with microchips. I don't trust any of this, so I'll say again, I'll believe it when I see it. President Donald Trump signed an executive action on Friday to impose a $100,000 application fee for H-1B visas in an effort to curb what his administration says is overuse of the program. Now, this is in quotations. We need great workers. And this pretty much ensures that that's what's going to happen. Trump said from the Oval Office, where officials detailed how the measure would incentivize companies to employ American workers while still providing a pathway to hire highly skilled foreign workers in specialized fields. In a separate order, Trump also directed the creation of a gold card, immigration pathway that he said would fast-track visas for certain immigrants in exchange for a hefty fee. The policy will expedite visas for foreigners who pay the U.S. $1 million while allowing a company to pay $2 million to speed up the process for a foreign worker that it sponsors. The H-1B visa is a work visa that's valid for 3 years and can be renewed for another 3 years. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick told reporters on a call Friday evening that the administration came to the fee of $100,000 per year plus vetting costs after talking with companies. He noted that the payment structure is still under discussion with the Department of Homeland Security in terms of whether we're going to charge the $300,000 up front or $100,000 a year for 3 years. Entrepreneurs Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy, who Trump initially tapped to lead the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, defended the program, igniting sharp criticism from MAGA loyalists hoping to restrict immigration. I don't necessarily... I do think in a way that this is probably goes down the line of an America First agenda, as long as if we don't have these skilled workers, it's still relatively easy for these, if we don't have these certain workers for these companies here in this country, that they can still outsource it and get and bring these, immigrants into this country to do the job. If we don't have it, on its face, I don't think that it's done in ill will. I do think that Trump, and this is subjective, but I do think that Trump is looking to incentivize companies to employ more American workers. Now, let's go to the root of it. Let's go to the root and let's get into the Patriot Party principles. Legal concerns. Immigration law experts argue that only Congress has the authority to set visa fees and create new visa categories. Trump's executive action may exceed presidential powers under current immigration statutes. Aaron Recklin Melinik, and I'm sure I butchered that name, of the American Immigration Council stated the move is almost, now I want y'all to pay attention to this because I am going to try to put a different perspective on this, to give you a different look of it. But I want you to pay attention to the language that's being used by these legal giants. So the American Immigration Council stated the move is almost certainly illegal and likely to be struck down in court, noting that fees must be tied to the cost of processing applications, not used as a deterrent or revenue generator. David Beyer from the Cato Institute echoed this, saying the fee and the new gold card visa program could be invalidated because they bypass congressional approval. Let's get down to the 3 Ps. At the Patriot Party, under the 3 Ps, we believe the complexity of immigration laws makes them unconstitutional at the root. Laws are supposed to be made for the people, by the people, not judges and lawyers' interpretations. And remember, if you want to see a copy or print out a copy on how we make these determinations, go to our website. We spoke about it at the beginning of the show. The link is in the podcast description. You can check out the 3Ps, the Patriot Party principles, on the website and copy and paste them and print them out. So you can use them as well. We have to, this is a generational change we are shooting for. It's not about future elections. It's about future generations. We have allowed politicians to overcomplicate things and pass these ambiguous laws for 100 years. And we have got to stop. That is a large reason this country is broken. A federal judge in Florida on Friday threw out President Trump's lawsuit against the New York Times, writing the complaint his attorneys filed earlier this week against the newspaper is too long. This to me is hilarious. You know, when I look at this, I'm like, what kind of bozo lawyer did this? Who has Trump hired? So this is in quotations from the judge. A complaint is not a microphone for public relations or a podium for a passionate oration at a political rally or a functional equivalent of the Hyde Park Speaker's Corner, wrote Judge Stephen Mereday in an order filed on Friday, adding his court was not a venue for the president to rage against the adversary. Oh, man, this complaint must have been a doozy. The judge gave Trump's attorney 28 days to file an amended complaint. The president sued the Times and several of its reporters for $15 billion in defamation damages on Monday, alleging the news outlet and its journalists acted with reckless disregard for the truth as it covered him in the lead up to the 2024 election. You know, it's just funny how everybody categorizes the truth. Nobody just wants to give the facts. The truth are the facts. Let the facts speak for themselves. You know, and the other side's just as bad. You know, yes, all these media outlets, whether left or right, they're spinning stories. They're igniting emotions, emotional responses for views and clicks and echo chambers on social media. Yes, they are. Now, I understand they're a business, but what I don't understand is why on the news feed they don't just give us the facts and then whatever way they lean, that's what their talk shows lean and their host, and they can spin the stories how they want. But when you're watching something on the news feed, you are getting facts. Why can't we have that? It seems so simple to me. It can be a business and it can be factual. And you can differentiate yourself from the left or the right, depending on what audience you're trying to appeal to, by your talk shows, by your host. I don't understand this. It doesn't make any sense to me. But let's get into the technicalities of it. The legal hurdles. The biggest obstacle is actual malice under U.S. defamation law. Public figures like Trump must prove that the media knowingly published false information or acted with reckless disregard for the truth. That's a very high bar. Harvard law professor, and I listen to this guy a lot. He is really smart. He's got a heck of a resume. Alan Derwish called it very, very uphill and noted Trump might have had better odds in the UK where defamation laws are more favorable to plaintiffs. Past settlements versus this case. Trump has won settlements from other media outlets, $36 million from CBS and $15 million from ABC, but those will resolve quietly and don't set legal precedents. The Times, by contrast, has vowed to fight this case in court and called it, in quotations, an attempt to stifle and discourage independent reporting. And in my mind, it's not meant to discourage independent reporting. It's meant to discourage independent reporting of biased, partial facts, of not giving the complete picture. You can't know. If you take a close-up, if you zoom in on a red car, and you just take a 1-inch picture of the red car. All you're going to see is red paint. You're not going to know what kind of car it is. And in essence, the same thing with these so-called news stories. If we're only getting part of the story, we really don't know what happened. We have to have the facts to know what happened. So they should be presented as they have them. They should not be misrepresenting, misinforming people by withholding facts that they have. Now, if they didn't have them and it spun to a certain way, okay. But that's why we have truth in this movement, not just truth in Constitution, because we want truth from the media. The media is an arm that is, in essence, helping whatever political party's in there. Depending on the channel, I'm not saying left-wing medias are helping Trump while he's in there, but these chambers, I mean, they just these echo chambers are so maddening. I mean, because they're echoing falsehoods, they're echoing misinformation. So the bottom line, the lawsuit is legally shaky, strategically aggressive, and rhetorically over the top. While it may serve political and symbolic purposes, its chances of winning in court are slim. Here's a few weekly highlights. The U.S. continues to grapple with rising inflation, though signs of stabilization are emerging. Wildfires in Northern California prompted evacuations and strained emergency services. And the Emmy Awards dominated cultural headlines celebrating excellence in television with surprise wins and emotional tributes. Now, I want y'all to make this make sense. Divorce rates plunge in Kentucky. Now, you would think that this is a good thing. That this is a good thing for children, for not having a broken home. I mean, divorces are awful. They really are. Well, they can be. I mean, they're not awful for everybody. Mine was very bad. So they plunge in Kentucky. Equal custody for fathers is a big reason why. A law setting 50-50 shared custody as the state's standard was held as a victory for fathers. But critics say it puts mothers and children at risk. How? How does it put children at risk? Or mothers that have to co-parent with the father. It is better for the children to have both parents in their life. It extends their vocabulary. It makes their developmental years better. They're usually smarter children that have a wider range of vocabulary. I mean, all around this is good, but you got critics. Political news. U.S. Secretary of State Mark Rubio visited Israel and Qatar amid escalating tensions in Gaza. His trip included meetings with Prime Minister Netanyahu and Qatar leaders. President Trump met with Qatar Prime Minister Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdulrahman Al Thani in New York to discuss Middle East peace efforts. That is a heck of a name. Arab leaders convened in Doha for an emergency summit following Israel airstrikes targeting Hamas figures. I'm not going to get into talking about this a lot. If you're interested, you can go on our social media platforms, and we were a guest on another good-sized podcast this week, World Ablaze with George Fontes. And you can view it on YouTube, or you can view it on his website. There's several places to view it, but you can get to it from our social media. We had a very, very enlightening discussion. We spoke for almost 2 hours on, oh my God, a plethora of topics. But we did go pretty in depth about what was going on with Qatar, what was going on with Israel. He brought up some good points that I was not aware of, and we went back and forth and pushed against one another. We had a great time. I would encourage y'all to check it out if you want more information on what's going on in Israel and Qatar and different opinions on how things should be handled, on different views. Now, in the end, In the end, when I gave my perspective after everything was laid out on the table, he did agree with me. He said a lot of Americans would like to see the U.S. and Israel's relationship and other allies turn into what I suggested. I'm not going to go into it here because, it was a lengthy conversation, and this is just our news show, and it was a little bit subjective. But if you are interested, check out our social media so you can get a link to his page, or on YouTube where you can watch the podcast. And I think you all will enjoy it. We had a great time. Under world news, U.S. chip juggernaut NVIDIA is facing a fresh round of antitrust scrutiny in China, just as senior officials from both countries meet for the largest round of trade negotiations. China's antitrust regulator said Monday that preliminary investigations found NVIDIA has violated the country's anti-competition law. The regulator, the State Administration for Market Regulation, didn't say whether it would punish the U.S. company, saying only that it would conduct further investigations. Shares in NVIDIA fell 2.5% in pre-market trading. China approved an acquisition by NVIDIA in 2020 after the Santa Clara, California-based designer of high-end semiconductors agreed to conditions including guaranteeing supplies of its chips to the country. Since 2022, the U.S. government has backed NVIDIA and other American chip vendors, blocked NVIDIA and other American chip vendors from selling many other top-flight artificial intelligence chips to China. I don't know how this is going to fall into the deal that NVIDIA and another chip maker made with the Trump administration on giving 15% to all chips that were deported, or that were sent, not deported, I'm getting into immigration, that were sent over to China as a way to balance out and not get tariffed. So I don't know how this is going to play out. We'll just have to wait and see, and I will keep you posted on the newest here. Israel intensified its campaign in Gaza City, targeting residential buildings, schools, and media offices. Over 75 Palestinians were killed in recent strikes, and starvation deaths have reached 422. Arab nations condemned Israel's actions and called for international intervention. Qatar labeled the strikes barbaric and reaffirmed its commitment to peace talks. In the West Bank, Israel forces raided the home of Oscar-winning Palestinian filmmaker Basil Audrey, sparking global outrage. And I say this, and I feel for the Palestinians. I don't want you to think that I'm calloused or jaded to these Palestinians that are suffering right now. But if you look at the amount of deaths with this urban warfare that they're having to do, they've done better than their enemy combatant versus their civilian death count is better than any other country ever doing it. If you look at the numbers, 75, 422. Okay, I hate to hear that, but if you look at that versus how many people there are, it's a percent of a percent. Just look at the numbers. But like I said, I do feel for them, but I always go back to this. That attack, October 7th, was way worse than 9/11. Per capita, it was almost 10 to 12 times the size, and it was way more barbaric. When it happened to us on a smaller scale, less barbaric, still bad. I'm not saying 9/11 was not awful. It was awful. I remember that day sitting in college, looking up at the TV, everybody walking in, everybody's watching it, and I take a seat and look at it, and it's, wow, this is happening. This is crazy. Not saying that, not downplaying that at all. It was awful. What happened in Israel was awful, and they have every right to eradicate Hamas, in my mind. Now, a lot of people's opinions differ on methods. And that's why I say, if you want some in-depth theories thrown out there on how things should be done, then, and I mean, it could even go under what we're gonna be doing a new series soon called Fixing America, and we're gonna have some of the America's thought leaders on with issues that they think are some of the biggest issues on why our country is in the position it's in. And then we are going to use the 3 Ps to break it down and see how to theoretically fix it. So, in essence, it was almost a little take on that when we were talking about. The relationship with the U.S. and Israel and what happened with Israel on this podcast, on the podcast where we went on and were an interview this week, The World Ablaze with George Fontes. So I do suggest, if this is something that interests you, that you check out the podcast, because we go through a whole bunch of stuff. Financial news. The Federal Reserve is expected to cut interest rates by 25 basis points, so that's 0.25%, fueling optimism in equity markets. Core inflation held steady in August, while mortgage rates dropped to an 11-month low at 6.35%, boosting home purchase applications. IPO activity surged, with Klarna leading a $1.4 billion offering. Tech stocks like Alphabet and Tesla saw major gains. Gold hit a record high at $3,700.20 an ounce, and Bitcoin hovered around 115,005. In a Truth Social post this morning, Trump said companies should no longer be forced to report on a quarterly basis and should instead report results once every 6 months. This will say, now this is in quotations, this will save money and allow managers to focus on properly running their companies, Trump said. Did you ever hear the statement that China has a 50 to 100-year view on management of a company, whereas we run our companies on a quarterly basis? Not good. The criticism of short-term thinking echoes arguments made by others in the past, including J.P. Morgan Chase CEO Jamie Dimon and legendary investor Warren Buffett. Buffett, excuse me. My goodness. If Warren Buffett's saying it, and CEO of J.P. Morgan and Chase is saying it, and the way I look at it as being a business owner myself, I see this more efficient, more proficient. I see this as a good thing. Tech news. Apple launched iOS 26 alongside the iPhone 17 series, including the ultra-thin iPhone 17 Air. The update features a new liquid glass interface and live transition animations, vertical and horizontal picks without flipping the phone, anti-screen movement software. You can run with no vibrations on videos, and I think pictures as well. 18 megapixel front camera for selfies, a better front camera. When I read about the battery life and different things, it did say, now this is subjective, I'm just giving you the facts, but this is a subjective opinion. When I read a test that they put it through, they said that if you didn't need to upgrade your iPhone, it may be better to wait until next year, because that's when all the major updates are going to happen. So, that's what I'm going to do, but I just got a new iPhone. So, that's depending on your package, depending on what you have, but you do know what is new on it. Like I said, vertical and horizontal picks without flipping the phone, anti-screen movement software, a better front camera, liquid glass. So there are some good amenities, some good new amenities that the iPhone does have. But that was a report put out by the Wall Street Journal where they said if you didn't need a new iPhone, this one may not be the one to go with. Microsoft patched 81 vulnerabilities across Windows, Office, and Azure, including 2 active zero-day exploits. India's UPI system raised transaction limits for high-value sectors, boosting platforms like GPay and Paytm. Samsung hosted its AI Forum 2025, showcasing integrated device experiences and future research directions. Celebrity news and gossip for the week. The Emmy Award show that we spoke about earlier brought out stars like Pedro Pascal, Sydney Sweeney, Leonardo DiCaprio. One battle after another, cast posted for a star-studded portrait. Dakota Fanning revealed she's exploring dating apps, while Barbara Eden denied long-standing feud rumors with Elizabeth Montgomery. Sabrina Carpenter and Ariana Grande shared a sweet moment at the MTV VMAs while Doja Cat stunned on the red carpet. Sports. Tanzania's Alphonse Felix Simbu won the men's marathon Monday at the World's Athletics Championships in Tokyo, using a stirring final kick to chase down and stun Germany's Emmanuel Petros in a photo finish. After 2 hours and 9 minutes and over 42 kilometers of racing, it looked like Petros was going to deliver Germany its first ever gold medal in a running event at the World Championships. But Simbu found a middle distance like final kick in the final meters to edge Petros and instead deliver his country's first world gold of any kind. Way to go, Simbu. The Chargers defeated the Raiders 20-9 on Monday Night Football. Justin Herbert threw for 242 yards and 2 touchdowns. MLB highlights: Toronto edged Tampa Bay in 11 innings. Minnesota shut out the Yankees, and Houston beat Texas. Travis Kelce was spotted gearing up for the Chiefs-Eagle matchup, drawing attention ahead of the weekend. New movies. A Big, Bold, Beautiful Journey, Colin Farrell and Margot Robbie. Whimsical time travel romance in theaters September 19th. Him, Tyreek Withers and Marlon Wayans. Psychological thriller produced by Jordan Peele in theaters September 19th. 28 years later, continuation of the zombie saga premieres September 20th on Netflix. Downtown Abbey, the grand finale, historical drama, now in theaters. The Conjuring, Last Rites, final installment of the horror franchise in IMAX nationwide. New TV shows and where to watch. Black Rabbit, Jason Bateman and Jude Law, Netflix original crime drama, now streaming. Heartland, Season 17, Netflix. Only Murders in the Building, Season 5, Hulu. The Golden Bachelor, Season 2, ABC, Wednesdays at 8 Central Standard Time. Law and Order, Toronto. Criminal Intent, NBC. The Morning Show, Season 4, Apple TV Plus, and Chad Powers, Glenn Powell, Hulu. Now, for the end of the show, the pick of the week. Hunting Grounds, and this is pretty hardcore, y'all. Hunting Grounds, which came out in 2025, is a Canadian action thriller directed by Derek Barnes. The story follows Chloe Marvino, a mother fleeing her mob-connected husband, seeking refuge. She hides in a remote cabin with a reclusive drifter named Jake, a former Special Forces soldier. But as her husband's henchmen close in, Chloe discovers that Jake may be even more dangerous than the people she's running from. The film blends suspense, survival, and revenge with a gritty forest setting and visceral violence. And where to watch The Hunting Ground. You can stream or rent the movie on Amazon Prime Video or Apple TV. To all y'all out there, stay safe and thank you for catching our Saturday morning show where truth meets every corner of the news.